It's been a couple of years since I did the South East Farmer piece, no?
Yeah, I think so. I think when you were
All good my way, yeah.
it was a colder time of year. I'm going to say it was sort of January. I think it was at least 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you feel like as much changed since then?
In terms of the farm, in terms
Yeah,
of
well,
the
I
business.
guess, in terms of, I guess, a bit of both, really. I mean, like, your role, because you were focused on the sort of supper clubs, like developing that.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, is it still the Pickering family that kind of run the dairy?
Yeah, exactly. So, well, I mean, it's in two changes on both this. So
Okay.
with the farm, Greg Pickering, one of the sons
Yeah.
of the Pickering clan, he's now taken over. So we have just a one-way sort of contract relationship with him.
Yeah.
Which has been brilliant, actually. I think he was always the sort of the Pickering in charge of the farm here.
Yeah, got it.
I think the fact that the buck sort of stops with him, and at the same time any sort of profits are shared with just him, that's worked really well for both parties. And then my role, still very involved with the farm, the supper clubs and the diversification bits. I guess that's changed.
Okay.
For the better, I think, in that we took on midway through last year. We took on a retail and events manager, which sounds very smart. But Piers, he now sort of heads up
Great.
the events and the shop, which is great. So instead of having me who's sort of spending 10% of my time sort of thinking about the events, you've got Piers spending 50% of his time. So it's Montbéliard, a bit of Holstein, and Viking Red. I'm not sure if they're still milking. We could go and have a quick we could have a quick look in the parlour.
Yeah. How many cows are you milking at the moment?
We are now 210 milking. Yeah.
Hi there.
Hey, Jasmine, right?
Good, thank you. Good. Nearly does?
Yes, nearly. I've got 3 more slides.
So Jasmine's just joined us. So we had Lucy, who was here for a few years, who was great. Jasmine's come along. That's good. I mean, I think one of the great things that Greg does, it's fostering a good team, actually.
Great.
And that also helps being part of that bigger Pickering operation.
Yeah.
They help each other quite out nicely, which is good. But yeah, that move to a pro cross, that's almost theirs, and we started that about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But when my parents took back the farm in 2016, they sort of went around the country and got all sorts. So a few jerseys, Montbéliards, Friesians, Longhorns, Shorthorns.
Yeah.
And so that's slowly been, sadly, but probably the best for the farm, that's been sort of bred out, and now it's sort of going towards this more uniform model.
Yeah. And they're just sort of more, more robust?
Yeah, certainly better for this soil. They're sort of they're quite stocky, quite wide-footed.
Yeah.
On the clay soil, so especially at the edges of the season.
Yeah.
Now, and in the autumn, makes a big difference.
Yeah.
That's one of our big costs here, especially when you're trying to keep vet bills low. So yeah, this dairy, this was put in along with the new parlour in 2020, and for a long time this bulk tank was plenty big enough. But then we've just become Arla members, and part of that is you need to have a reserve bulk tank, so that's what this is. And we thought that we wouldn't need it, but with the herd going in, we've increased cow numbers, and just generally they've become more productive. And so this is actually being used this year, which is something we weren't expecting, so we're quite happy we got one in the end. But it is a bit of it's an upfront cost. You get paid back for it. So the grazing platform, we'll probably graze about 300 acres. And then silage. I mean, it changes. It just depends what's going on. If there's loads of silage left over, we'll graze a bit more. But about 300 acres is part of the grazing rotation, and we did our first open farm Sunday last year. Well, that worked really well.
Yeah.
And great for the community to understand what goes on here. I don't think we really appreciated that. That actually You know, everyone lives around this farm, but actually without much of a clue about what goes on, other than seeing cows out and about.
Yeah.
So getting them in, getting them up on the viewing platform, riding around a tractor, understanding what the silage is, was great. So we're doing that again this year, which will be good. It's a great hill, this. Hopper's Bank.
What's it called?
Hopper's Bank.
Hopper's Bank.
So the high
Wow, what a
point-
viewpoint. It's amazing, isn't it?
It's a high point in the area. It's lovely.
So what is it you love about your job then, George?
I guess, I don't know, it's quite stressful. Which I quite like.
Is it quite stressful?
There's balls to juggle.
Yeah.
I'm an okay juggler. I'm not that good, but I don't know. I just quite enjoy that challenge.
Yeah.
And everything's sort of quite different, and like you're forced to be quite different.
Yeah.
In order to make it work. Well, for us, I mean, the farm actually last few years has done really well.
Great.
But you know, as we spoke about earlier, we've had a decent milk price,
Yeah, that helps.
which ultimately, you know, you can be really in control of your costs and
Yeah.
animal health and all of it. But if you're, I don't know, as an organic farmer, if you're getting paid, I'm trying to think what our break even is. I think it's about 42p a litre, 43p a litre. You know, so if you're getting underneath that, then quite tough. But I think, I mean, the way I look at it is it is more of a accumulation, and this is a good sort of estate when everything is sort of working together and it's all sort of symbiotic. You know, we were just talking about more sort of beef and going into the farm shop.
Yeah.
You know, the farm generally doesn't sort of contribute enough to the farm shop. And I think if there was more produce from the farm, and farm shop would, you know, be more popular as a result.
Yeah.
I mean, Greg and I are working on this at the moment. Is like, what is like the plan B?
Yeah.
With this farm, plan C with this farm.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't, like the system that we're on at the moment, it's just, it is just about working, but that could easily change.
Yeah. The milk price like drops or something.
Milk price drops. I don't know. There's a huge war on that like affects like you know, the feed price that you're paying. You know, that you're too reliant on one product. What's an alternative that would, you know, spread, to your point earlier about spreading risk, like how could we come up with a sort of system that does that maybe a bit better?